Hi folks, welcome to today's video, Lumbar Herniated Disc Recovery, your top 10 questions answered. Now, if you've just been diagnosed with a lumbar herniated disc, you're in a state of shock, possibly a lot of pain, okay, you've got questions for your doctor, your medical practitioners. Very often they don't give you satisfying answers. I know from experience, okay? And today I'm going to go over the top 10 questions that I've received from my clients, people I've helped through YouTube, through my free advice calls, etc., to bring those top 10 questions with answers for you today on this video. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So folks, today we're going to go over the top 10 questions that I have found from my own clients, people asking me questions throughout YouTube, for people who've been diagnosed with a lumbar herniated disc, okay? Now, before we dive into those top 10, a little request from me to you. If this is your first time to this channel, you're suffering from low back pain problems, sciatica nerve pain, herniated discs, bulging discs, lumbar stenosis, lumbar arthritis, then hit that subscribe button, okay? I produce a lot of great content every week for you guys to get back on the road to pain-free recovery. Why should you listen to me? Well, I've been in this business over 25 years, health and fitness industry, rehabilitation industry. I myself have herniated my L5-S1 twice, okay? I've come back from it twice, all right? Just recently was my last one. It took a couple of years. Previously to that was back in 2005, okay? So I've been in the trenches, I know what I'm talking about, I've got the education, and I'm here to help you guys get back on that road to pain-free recovery. All right, so let's kick it off. Question number one, okay, this is very, very, very common. This is, people ask this to me, to the doctors, practitioners, will you need surgery? Okay, so if you've been diagnosed with herniated disc, you got a lot of sciatica nerve pain, you have what's called drop foot, you have loss of bladder control, loss of bowel control, then yes, most likely you will be going in for surgery, okay? Anytime you have something that's called cauda equina, which is a really extensive compression of the nerves in your lumbar spine, they will most likely do surgery, okay? Because that extended damage to the nerves can lead to paralysis later on in life. So if you're that state, okay, then you most likely will have to get surgery. However, 80 to 90% of people will not need surgery, okay? Yes, you might be in quite a bit of pain to start with, but that will dissipate over the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then you should start being on the road to recovery. So conservative treatment versus surgery for, I would say, mild cases, if you want to say mild cases, generally outcome is better in the case of conservative surgery, okay? Sorry, conservative treatment. In surgery, there is a high risk of any surgery, of course, when you go under the knife, okay? There is quite a lot, and it depends which research you read, anywhere from sort of 30 up to 60% of reoccurrence of the herniation within the first 6 months of having the surgery, okay? So that's something to be aware of, all right? So I would also recommend you exhaust every conservative treatment possible before you go down the surgery route, all right? Okay, question two, I've got it written down here. How long does this injury take to heal? All right, so here's the thing. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't mess around, okay? I say it how it is, okay, in that respect. I'm not going to say to you, oh yeah, you know, join my program, do this exercise, and you'll be back on your feet in a month, right? 3 weeks, okay? That's not how this injury works. You have to respect this injury because it is a long, drawn-out rehabilitation period. Now, there is a difference between healing and recovery, in my opinion, right? You can be recovered doing lots of activities you're doing before, but the disc itself, the injured area, is still healing, okay? And you have to be aware of that. So, conservatively, if it's a mild injury, you're probably looking at about 6 months. Okay, I'll be honest with you, don't believe what you read online. It says, oh, 4 to 6 weeks, okay? That is purely symptomatic relief in that 4 to 6 week period, all right? For some positive healing to take place and recovery, we're looking at minimum 6 months. Most likely, we're talking 18 months up to 2 years, right? In my first herniation, L5-S1, 20 years ago, it took me, I didn't touch weight for 6 months. Another 6 months I was doing very kind of, you know, core general body strengthening. I didn't load my spine, etc. I didn't load my spine properly until about 12 to 14 months after the actual injury was diagnosed. It was probably up to like 18 months to 2 years before I started loading my spine, you know, more with like, you know, front squats, deadlifts, etc. Okay. Second time around, which was just 2024. Okay, March 24 was the time of the severe injury. Got the MRI. I knew what happened. I wouldn't go into the details, but MRI was January, February 2025. Yes, herniation, blah, 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 bulging discs through my lumbar spine, etc. That has taken me from point of injury. It's taken me almost 2 years, okay? And I've been very, careful with it this time around. I'm much, much older. I'm 20 years older. Things take longer to heal, but I'm pretty much 99.9% back, okay, to training again normally, right? There's a couple of videos are going to pop up. The first one is sort of after my first injury, years after, of course, before my second injury, deadlifting, hang snatching, okay? This time around, I've got some videos popping up in just a second there. I'm doing some front squat with a bar, about 80 kilos, 170 pounds or so. Then I've got like a sort of front squat pendulum type machine as well I've been using. So this time around, coming back a bit slower because obviously it's taking me a lot longer to get back because I'm much, much older. Okay, that's just the state of play. It was a disc I'd re-injured before, etc. So it does take longer for discs to heal when you're older. They're not the same sort of makeup, if you will. They're more cartilaginous. They're more sort of stiff, okay, as you're older, all right? So time, if you're young, if you're like, it's not that severe, we're looking at 6 months, maybe up to a year, okay? For somebody who it's more severe injury, you're a bit older, you're looking at 12 to 18 months, up to 2 years, most definitely, okay? And that is following conservative care. That's, following a proper balanced program, gradually loading yourself as you go forward. And at the end of the day, you're probably not going to be loading the spine directly, okay? It's going to be a sort of gentle, progressive rehabilitation plan that you should be on. And you're going to be aware of that injury, okay, up until that sort of 18-month, 2-year point. So when you do start loading your spine, you're going to be much more aware of it, not doing anything crazy, still practicing good spine hygiene, okay? Because it is a weak point you're going to have down the line, all right? So just be aware of that. So really treat this injury with the respect it deserves, okay? Number 3, will I be able to do my old activities again, okay? Yes, you will. You just saw those videos of me doing the deadlift and stuff, okay? The hang snatch, right? All those things. I went back to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all this kind of stuff. Okay, mountain biking. I was big on mountain biking as well. Yes, I was able to return to all my previous activities. Okay. Now, if someone is, for example, a gymnast, okay, or a rhythmic gymnast, which requires extreme dexterity, flexibility, then that could be the case. You won't be able to go back to those certain specific sports, right? But again, for 95, 99% of people in their daily lives, yes, they'll be able to run again. They'll be able to, cycle, play tennis, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, whatever it is, okay, your chosen sort of high intensity sport, most likely you'll be able to go back to that sport. But you will need to get strong before you go back to the sport, okay? Extremely important. In my opinion, this is my opinion, but what I've seen, what I've read, for most injuries, you got to strengthen your way out of pain and keep yourself strong, all right? And that will allow you to do the activities you want to do, okay? So yes, you can get back to do them again. It's a long road, and you've got to make sure you strengthen your way out of it, all right? Number 4, it's been 6 months since my injury and I still have sciatica leg pain. Very, very, very common, okay? So the nerve, again, when we're older, the nerve heals extremely slowly, right? Even with the correct conditions for healing, so, nutrition, not loading it, all the different movements, etc., to help with nerve regeneration. Even if you're doing all that correctly, it still takes a long time. If you're over 40, 45, it takes even longer, okay? And once the nerve has been injured, okay, it's more sensitive, right? It's much more likely to sort of flare up. Because a lot of people, the sciatica is coming down. That's what happened to me, for example. And then you do a long car ride and you're sitting. Now, when you're sitting, what happens is the way the nerve runs, okay, and you've got a muscle called your piriformis muscle, that runs under which is called your sit bone. Now, your sit bones are what's called your ischial-tuberosities. They're like these two bony protrusions at the bottom of your pelvis, right? So when you sit, you're literally compressing that nerve, yeah? Now, if you've got a nerve which has been injured, it's more sensitive to that compression, okay? It's more agitated, if you will, right? So that's why sitting is quite often one of the last things that people can do without any issues, yeah? I'm currently sitting on an office chair, but I'm actually sitting on one of those like soft SI cushions, right? To give me some more cushioning, yeah? And I can sit here pretty much now for hours I don't like to. I get up every hour and walk around, right? But one time I was having to stand most of the time because I couldn't sit any more than like 10, 15 minutes. It would be like this really painful because of the pressure, because the nerve was sensitive. So yes, it's very common for sciatica to last 6 months, 12 months, even 18 months. It will get less, okay? And you may have different sensations. You may have like tingling, you may have like somebody's like scratching underneath your skin, you may have cold foot, which is one that I had, which actually started to dissipate now. That took almost 2 years for that to get better. But it's routinely doing things like nerve glides, constant movement, actually part of your exercise, stimulating blood flow, range of motion exercises, etc., will help that to dissipate. But yes, it is normal to have lingering sciatica for a long time, and even when it's all gone, there can be things that will kick it up, like a long plane ride where you sit a long time, a long car journey, which is an uncomfortable car maybe you've never sat in before, sitting on a strange couch for a long period of time, a hard surface. They're little things that can kick up that pain again. But remember, it's not that it's not that you've re-injured yourself at that site of the disc, it's not been re-herniated again. It is most likely due to just because the nerve is more sensitive, okay, to that compressive force. All right, so moving on. Number 5. I've been offered a cortisone shot or injection. Will that help? Okay, so very often with conservative care, they will offer you your doctors, okay, or they'll offer you a shot, right? Now that shot is normally hydrocortisone, okay, it's a corticosteroid, it's an anti-inflammatory type steroid. What that will do, okay, it doesn't heal your injury, right? What it does is it reduces the inflammation, okay, at the site of injury, which will allow you to do more movement. So basically bring your pain down to allow you to do more exercise, to do the rehabilitation, to get you strong, to get you out of the injury, okay? It's not going to heal the injury, right? But it will help you progress and move forward in your injury recovery. Some people do feel worse after that. It happened to me. I had a second shot back in 2005, and I was worse. And they believe that what happened was when they injected the material, there was just no space. So all this extra material, and it starts to push on the nerve as well, all that kind of compressive force, and it made it worse. Now, it did dissipate, right? But it can be more painful after the shot sometimes. They don't always work, yeah? They take up to about 14 days for them to have full effect, and sometimes they don't work for everybody, okay? So will it help? Yes. In most cases, it will help to reduce the inflammation, okay, but it won't heal the injury. You have to go and do the work, the exercises, the rehab protocol, etc., to get you back to full health, okay? Question 6 now. How often should I be exercising? Because you read online, YouTube, Reddit, whatever, keep moving, okay? There is a limit, okay? You're not a professional athlete, right? Doing stuff 20, 24 hours a week, right? You want to be doing something every day, but not the same thing. What do I mean by that? So what I recommend for most of my clients is they do their rehabilitation strength workout 3 times a week, okay? They're doing their kind of stretching, mobility, decompression work another 3, 4 times a week, and then they have an easy day. Because when I say easy day, like a little bit of light stretching, go for a light walk or something, they need that easy day for the body to recover. All right, because you're tearing it down with exercise. When you sleep, okay, when you do like nothing, basically, is when you're recovering, right? Now you can do active recovery, like, nice walks, but don't be doing like, 10, 15,000 steps every single day, okay? Unless you're already doing that, you're used to that, right? The body, you'll end up breaking it down, okay? And you'll need that extra break for you to recover properly, right? So yes, it's good to be doing something every day, right? But make sure you balance it with the types of exercises you do and the intensity that you do. Otherwise, you're never going to get rid of that pain. The pain is always going to be niggling because you keep basically irritating it, and you don't give it enough chance to heal properly, right? It's all about kind of undulating, high volume, high intensity. Next day you relax, okay, a little bit of light stretching, then you're up again. And that gives the body enough time to regenerate, to recuperate, to repair, and to get you back to pain-free recovery, all right? Okay, moving on. We've got question 7, is that? 8, 6, how many am I telling you here? How do I know if I'm getting better? Okay. My subscribers will know that I harp on about this all the time. How do you know if you're getting better? You know if you're getting better by recording and looking back at your record, okay, your diary of what you've been doing, okay? So for example, I was saying to you guys earlier, At one time I could maybe sit for 10 minutes maximum on this chair, and then I would be like, sharp stabbing pain, my leg was like really cold, twitching, whatever, right? Now I can sit here for probably 2-3 hours, not a problem, okay? If I wanted to. I do get up because that's just me, right? However, how do you know if you're getting better? You'll only know if you're recording what you've done before, okay? And you can look back. Now, in my experience, most people's improvements happen across a 2-week span, right? Not daily. In some cases, yes, it can be daily. Sometimes not weekly. It's more like within like sort of 2-week blocks, you will see improvement, yeah? And it's just because the rate of healing is so slow. And when somebody starts doing a rehabilitation program, there's an adaptation phase, the body gets used to it, there'll be some upticks in pain, okay, which is completely normal, and it'll take a while for that to calm down to see the results of what you've implemented, exercises, stretches, decompression, etc., right? So, but you need to be recording that either in your phone, either in a small, like a little booklet diary or something like that, writing down, steps you walked last week, exercises, weights, repetitions, sleep you've had, stress levels at work, water consumption, are you having an anti-inflammatory type diet, okay? All these things, like, which bed you slept in when you're visiting your parents, visiting your friends, did you get a new mattress? All these things come into play, yeah? And it's only when you look back at that and truthfully self-reflect and be honest with yourself, do you start to see where you've improved? Because it's a very, very slow process. And a lot of people, they can't take that it takes so long, right? Because we're used to, like, today's modern world, right? You had it yesterday, right? It's like, deliveries happen on the day, if not the next day. Things are instantaneous, instant, gratification, right? With this injury, it's not like that, okay? You have to realize it's a long game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? But you do and will see progress, but you have to record it so you can look back and see those steps, see how you've moved on, okay, week by week, okay, month by month, all right? Okay, number 8. How do you know what is good pain versus bad pain? Now, I get asked this quite a lot, okay? So, typically when I tell my clients when they have a new workout to do, I say, look, it's very normal. You're going to have an uptick in pain, okay? Because you're doing different movements. The body's not moved that way. The nerve's starting to, shift again. Your back muscles have been very tense. You've been protecting it. Now it starts to move, okay? So what I say is, okay, you do the exercise. That day, or the next day, you will most likely get an increase in pain. Okay, it goes up, right? On the third day, so workout days here, increase in pain is either the workout day or the second day, it goes up, right? On the third day, that pain should come down, all right? If on the third day it goes up or stays up there, then in my opinion, something you've done on that workout day, it did not agree with, right? The body did not agree with it. You've had an uptick, okay? Because the tissues are sensitive, right? It doesn't mean you've re-injured yourself, okay? Because an actual workout itself, if it's designed for you, right, from your rehab specialist, right, it's not going to be doing like crazy deadlifts or doing box jumps or something, which is going to actually really impact your existing injury and make that worse. Okay, you may aggravate the tissues around the injury. That's very, very normal. Okay. But you want to be seeing, an uptick in pain is very normal, and then a decrease on the third day, okay? When I give out workouts, I always say, do the workout, take 48 hours off, gives the body time to adjust. If everything's okay, we do it again, okay? Or give you, if it's 2 workouts, the second workout, and then take 48 hours off again. It seems very slow, but it's a very methodical process to see how that body is going to react to those workouts, right? So that is a normal process. So I would say if you're looking at, what is normal pain, like you've got up to a 10 is like excruciating, can't walk, etc. Okay, 1, no pain at all. I would say if you're exercising and you're getting a 3, 4 pain, that is completely normal. Okay, a little bit of agitation is normal whilst you do the exercises and post-exercise, but that should dissipate. If it's a new workout, it's almost have more of an uptick in pain, maybe a 5 or a 6, but that should drop down to like a 4, 3, 2, 40 hours after. Okay, if it doesn't, you say, right, some exercise that I have done, okay, that I need to change, take out. It's not necessarily that was a bad exercise. It's just the wrong time for that exercise to be put into my program. Okay, I always say there's no such thing as a bad exercise, only bad application. Okay, so yeah, as far as good pain versus bad pain, okay, is where the pain is increasing after you've done some movement. Okay, it keeps on going up and up and up days later. Okay, all your symptoms come back. Okay, you've got drop foot, you have a big uptick in sciatica, etc., then you've really irritated something, right? And then you have to go into the calming down mode, on your back or in your front Mackenzie position, Mackenzie back leans, side leans, etc. This kind of activity to try to bring that pain down. But you will probably be sensitive for about 4, 5, even up to 7 days if you've really made it worse. But again, as long as you're not doing depth jumps, or going back to a deadlift again, or squat 100, 200 kilos again, you should be completely fine. Okay? All right. Number 9, when should you go back to see your doctor? Okay, so typically you're advised to go off to conservative care. If the doctor thinks, right, he's not a surgery case, off you go for conservative care. That will typically be anywhere from 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, depending on the country you live, depending on your insurance, socialized medicine, what you have access to, okay? But typically after 3-4 months, if the person is not starting to see improvement, okay, and or it's getting worse, right, then yes, you should go back to see your doctor, okay, and then decide the next steps. Maybe it's an injection, maybe it's a different physiotherapy type of modality. I always say to people, look, if you go to, be it an osteopath, be it a chiropractor, be it a physiotherapist, be it whatever it could be, right, somebody who's the practitioner who's helping you get back. If you're not seeing a reduction in pain within 10 sessions, even, I mean, say, consider like within 7 sessions, you're not seeing a difference, then it's time to change that modality, right? If you've gone to somebody for 6 months, twice a week, and there's like very little change, you have to change your modality. It's not working, all right? So definitely within 3 months, you should start to see improvements, okay, conservatively. And if you are improving, then you stick with that, okay? If it's been 6 months, 18 months, okay, and that pain is really like, it's not going away, it's not getting less, you're really struggling, yes, you've got to go back and speak to your doctor, talk about other potential methods, okay? Now, last but not least, and this is a very, very big one, how do you stay positive, right, when progress is so slow? And again, I'm going to lay it on the line, guys. This injury, it takes a long time to heal, okay? Mentally, for most people, this is a very difficult injury to work with. If you break your arm, okay, I had a broken right arm, and I had a cast up to here, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, you get your cast off, okay, you do some rehab for the arm, yeah, you're back to normal, okay? You pull a muscle, 4 to 6 weeks, all right? These injuries, people see them, you've got casts on, you've got your sling on, you've got your crutches, right? If you have a herniated disc in your lower back, okay, people don't see that. They might see you walking a bit funny, right? But it's a very difficult injury because you're dealing with it inside, in here, yeah? And because the rate of change, the rate of healing is so slow, it is very difficult, okay, to stay positive. I know that, right? Now, I made a couple of videos. I'm going to flash up at the end here. It's about the mental side of this injury, how to help reframe your thoughts and to stay positive, right? Now, a lot of it comes from keeping a diary of your progress so far, because you can look back and you can see your wins, you can see how far you've come, right? It is staying off of Reddit, right? Because there people just go there to complain and moan, right? And they'll tell you about all the disasters they've had in their journey, and it's horrible and whatever. I'm not taking away that they've not had a bad journey, but it's not good for your psyche to go and read about other people having the same problems, because you're going to think, oh, I'm going to be the same as them, I'm never going to get out of this pain, okay? That's the wrong attitude to have, okay? You have to reframe your thoughts around what you can control. You have to kind of reverse engineer to say, right, this is me here, 12 months I want to be here. How do I get here? And then you reverse engineer it backwards to where you are now, okay? If you put a plan in place, if you have a good rehab specialist to work with, right, he'll guide you along that path, right? You're going to get there and you're going to stay positive, okay? If you're not looking back and seeing progress because you've kept a diary, okay, if you've not kept a diary, you can't see progress, of course you're going to get stuck in a rut, right? You're not going to know one day to the next how you're improving, right? So you have to plan what you're going to do. You have to record that plan, okay? Surround yourself with good people. Tell your partner, tell your family what you're doing, how you've progressed, okay? Ask them if they've seen any changes, because that's one thing that I've, come across from clients as well, is like the family members that I've spoke to will say, oh, we saw this sudden change, and he just became happier, or he was doing more around the house, etc., etc. And that's fantastic. That's what you want to hear, right? So by all means, please speak to your friends, family, loved ones, and say, look, hold me accountable, notice what I'm doing. If you see a change in me, etc., etc., support me, okay? Those are the sort of things you have to bring in. You have to have this kind of almost a social support network, right? But you also have to be truthful to yourself and record what you're doing and be honest with yourself and look back. And that will keep you mentally positive, right? Obviously, we talk about walking quite a lot, okay, in rehab, or light cycling. Yeah, if you've got like a cycling machine in the gym, the recumbent one, for example, is a good one. Those types of things, just movement itself, exercise itself, it gives you an endorphin release, right? That will help you also stay mentally positive. It generally helps, there's natural opioid release, helps reduce pain as well, okay? So those are the types of things that can help for you to can help you stay mentally positive during this long journey, all right? Now, guys, I've been rambling on for about 25 minutes now, so I hope this video has been useful for you. If you've got any comments, questions at all about your own struggles, please put them in the comment section down below, okay? And if there's a topic that you're going through that I've never mentioned or not talked about before on my channel, hit me up, okay? Mention in the comments what you'd like me to do a video on. I would gladly make a video to help you guys understand your own injury, how to get past it, okay, how to get, some pain relief from it. I am here to help you, all right? So guys, listen, please subscribe to the channel for more great content. Don't forget to like, share, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.